Silver balloons shimmered beneath a sky so clear it looked painted. I walked slowly along the stone path leading to the backyard, where the baby shower for my lifelong best friend, Tessa Green, was being held. We'd been together for nearly 25 years, since high school in a small Oregon town. I used to think I knew her better than I knew myself. But that afternoon, surrounded by laughter and the soft haze of pastel pink, a chill ran down my spine. Something felt off. Tessa stood in the middle of the yard, wearing a cream-colored maxi dress, her blonde hair softly curled, a lavender flower crown perched atop her head like something out of a maternity ad. She smiled when she saw me and my husband, Noah, the kind of man who could detect trouble with a single glance. "Alexa?" Tessa opened her arms, but didn't hug me like she usually did. She leaned in slightly, one hand drifting instinctively toward her stomach. "Don't squish the baby." I forced a smile and handed the gift basket to Noah. He lightly squeezed my hand, just enough to get my attention. I turned to look at him, and his eyes were quietly scanning the party, quick and precise. "We should leave." He leaned in and whispered, "You're kidding, right? This is Tessa's baby shower. She's my best friend." "I'm not kidding," he said, his voice tense. "Alexa, something's not right. I can feel it." I tightened my grip on his hand, trying to keep my smile steady. "Noah, please. I don't want to ruin this party." Whatever he wanted to say, he buried it behind a slow blink and a half exhale, then swallowed it. "Okay. But if something happens, don't say I didn't warn you." When Tessa introduced me to her new friends, most of them faces I'd never seen, I smiled, shook hands, and made small talk. It wasn't until we got in the car and drove away that Noah finally spoke again. His voice was low and steady, as if every word weighed a ton. "She's faking the pregnancy." I whipped around. "What?" "Alexa, I'm 90% sure she's not pregnant." I was speechless. My hand tightened around the seatbelt. Every word he said dropped like stones into the calm lake I'd believed was our sincere friendship. The SUV pulled away from Tessa's neighborhood, but in my head the party played in slow motion like a movie. Every small detail grew sharper and more suspicious the more I thought about it. I'd always known Tessa had extravagant taste, but that day, everything was over the top. She'd called it a casual little get-together. But the moment I stepped through the garden gate, I knew no ordinary person could pull that off in just a few weeks. The backyard had been transformed into a dazzling studio with imported flowers, metallic streamers hanging from willow trees, and a massive flower wall lit up with LED letters spelling Baby L. There was a custom mocktail bartender, a French-style dessert buffet, and 2 professional photographers capturing every angle non-stop. I had planned my own wedding with a quarter of the effort and budget. Noah, calm as he tried to appear, couldn't hide his watchfulness. He lingered for a while near the sponsor board, which listed the names of several major brands. I remember saying, "She told me her friends pitched in. Maybe they really care about her." Noah only shrugged, but I noticed his gaze lingered on a group near the bar. One man stood out. Older, tall, salt and pepper hair, silver-rimmed glasses, dark suit. Not your average guest. He wasn't smiling, wasn't drinking, just watching Tessa. When I whispered, "Is he one of her friends?" Noah whispered back, "No, but I've seen him. At my hospital." I frowned. "A patient?" "No, a doctor. He works in OB at Redwood Medical." "But Tessa told you she's going to St. Gabriel." I froze. "You're sure?" "Very sure. And that doctor only works at Redwood. He's not licensed anywhere else." I swallowed hard, so what was really behind that perfect smile? When the party moved to the nursery tour, Tessa led a group of us upstairs, including me. "Everything's brand new," she said, her voice bright with excitement. "I want my baby girl to grow up surrounded by love." The room looked like a spread from a luxury furniture catalog. White crib, trimmed with gold. Imported linen curtains, moon-shaped nightlight, a hand-painted mural of a spring forest with bunnies, sparrows, and wildflowers, and in the center, a gold-plated name sign, Liana Grace. Tessa turned around, beaming. "What do you think, Alexa?" I looked around at every piece. Immaculate. Too perfect. But when I touched the crib's edge, I noticed the mattress was still wrapped in plastic. The boxes of wipes, bottles, bottle warmers, they were all unopened. Nothing had been used. I tried to stay calm. "When are you planning to open everything?" Tessa shrugged. "Oh, maybe next week. My mom said to wait for the right energy before opening anything, to avoid bad luck." That might have made sense if I didn't know her family never believed in superstition. As everyone went back downstairs, I lingered a bit, and just then I saw Noah standing in the hallway, quietly raising his phone to snap a few pictures. I stepped out and asked softly, but I'd wager any of them. "What are you doing?" He slipped the phone away in a flash. "Just documenting a few things, in case we need them." I looked at him, my brow furrowing. "You really think she's faking it?" "I'm not 100% sure," Noah said. "But every sign points in one direction. And Alexa, you know better than anyone. Tessa has always known how to stage a perfect performance." I didn't respond, but my chest tightened, not because I doubted my friend, but because I was afraid Noah might be right this time. We barely spoke on the drive back from Tessa's house. Only when the car merged onto the highway heading towards suburban Portland did Noah finally speak. His voice calm, but chilling. "Last week, when I helped Tessa move her bookshelf in the office, I saw a medical folder open on the desk. I didn't think much of it at first, but then a blood test result caught my eye." Noah continued slowly. "The results didn't match someone in their 7th month of pregnancy. Her beta-HTG levels were unusually low. Hemoglobin was too high. No signs of iron supplements or prenatal tracking. It looked like someone in perfect health. But definitely not pregnant." I wanted to cut him off, to tell him he was invading her privacy, that he was digging for flaws in my friend. But instead, I turned away and gripped the steering wheel, as if trying to hold on to something that was slipping through my fingers. "Tessa told me she didn't want to share her medical records with anyone but her husband. She thinks pregnancy is private," I said weakly, my voice trembling. Noah was silent for a moment, then quietly said, "Remember back in March, when you invited her to the group ultrasound session with the girls? She said she had a headache. But that morning, she posted a brunch photo from the Pearl District." I remembered. She was in a flowy black dress, posing with a glass of orange juice. The angle showed her belly, clear and pronounced. But now that I thought about it, every recent photo of Tessa followed the same formula. Left side angle, soft lighting, hand gently resting on her stomach like a signature. Performance. My chest ached. "She still eats raw food," Noah added. "Like when we went to that sushi place a month ago, and she had red wine at the charity event last month. Do you think a woman near her due date would do that?" I rested my chin on my hand, heart tangled in knots. "You're jealous. You've never liked Tessa." Noah paused, then met my gaze. There was no anger in his eyes, only quiet sorrow. "No. I'm worried about you. And about her, too." I'd seen Tessa sob uncontrollably after her miscarriage at 28. She told no one but me and her mother. Ever since, she'd become obsessed with the image of a perfect mother. But to fake a pregnancy? Why? That night, I lay with my back to Noah, unable to sleep. Memories surged like floodwaters I couldn't hold back. Tessa had always taken the lead in our friendship. She called at midnight, sent blurry ultrasound pictures, described baby kicks, yet never let anyone else confirm them. Back then, I told myself it was just her way, being guarded, not secretive. But now, The next morning, as I was making breakfast, Noah walked out from the office, phone in hand. He hesitated, then handed it to me. "You should listen to this." I took it. It was a recording. Background noise from yesterday's party, voices overlapping. She's starting to believe it's real. "We need to speed things up." It was David's voice. Tessa's husband? I froze. He met my eyes and said it softer this time, almost like a warning. I didn't mean to record it. I was passing by the hallway behind the restrooms. I heard him talking on the phone. Something felt wrong, so I hit record. I set the phone down on the table. My hand trembled. "What do you think they're doing?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "I'm not entirely sure," Noah replied. "Maybe it's a PR strategy for the foundation, or maybe something bigger. But what I'm sure of is Tessa can't tell what's real and what's performance anymore." I lowered my head onto the table. There was no anger inside me, only a deep, haunting pity. If Tessa truly believed she was pregnant, she was living in a delusion. But if not, if this was all calculated, I couldn't let myself go there. The next morning, after Noah had left for an early surgery shift, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at my cold coffee. My phone kept lighting up with new messages from our college friends. Everyone was sharing photos from yesterday's party, captioned with "Congratulations" for Tessa. The photos hadn't changed, but what I saw in them had. In every angled shot, her hand rested in the same spot. In some, the dress was arranged to create a perfectly rounded curve. In one, she beamed while holding a mocktail. But the glass? It was one typically used for alcoholic cocktails. I picked up my phone and typed a message. "Tessa, I think I left my blue silk scarf at your place yesterday. Mind if I swing by real quick?" She read it in under a minute. "I'm heading downtown for a prenatal appointment, but my sister Lindsay is home. Just drop by, I'll let her know to open the door." I grabbed my coat and wallet. There was no scarf, but I needed something. Proof. Something real, to quiet the storm in my mind and the ache in my chest. When I arrived, Lindsay opened the door, her hair pulled up messily and wearing one of Tessa's hoodies. She was 8 years younger than Tessa, had studied art before dropping out to pursue photography. Mascara still smudged from the night before. "Alexa?" She blinked. "Tessa's not here." "I know. She said you'd let me in. I left a scarf yesterday." "Oh, probably still in the living room." Lindsay shrugged, turning away. "Help yourself. I'm cleaning up from dinner." I stepped inside. No fresh flowers, no laughter. The house felt like a set dismantled after a performance. On the dining table, half a bottle of red wine and a plate of half-eaten steak sat untouched. I glanced at the mute rare, nearly bleeding. "Whose is this?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "David's, your brother-in-law. He got home late, grilled himself a steak." "Tessa only had salad," Lindsay replied, glancing down at the table. "Salad. With red wine," I said quietly, moving toward the stairs. Maybe just a sip. You know her, she's cautious." Careful? I thought. Would someone careful leave half a bottle of wine and a plate of rare steak on the dinner table while 7 months pregnant? I walked straight upstairs and stopped at the bedroom door. There was no reason for the silk scarf to be in there, but I stepped in anyway, nerves trembling. The room was unusually tidy. On the desk sat a box tied with a pale ribbon. I was about to turn away when light from the window hit something peeking out from the small wooden cabinet beside the desk. A brown leather notebook, no title, just a long scratch across the cover like it had been yanked. I didn't think long. I slid it out and tucked it into my bag like a thief. "Alexa, did you find your scarf yet?" Lindsay called from downstairs. "Maybe I left it in the car," I yelled back, forcing a cheerful tone. I walked down, gave her a quick nod, and got out of there as fast as I could. The moment I got home, I locked the door, pulled the curtains, and sat alone on the couch, the notebook in my hands. I hesitated for a long time, then opened it. The first page read, "To my beloved daughter." Even though you haven't come to me yet, I see you as clearly as morning light. They don't understand. They think I'm dreaming. But I know you're real. And I won't let anyone take you away from me again. Dated, February, 3 years ago. I flipped through the pages. Each one was a letter. Some written weeks apart, some scribbled in what looked like anger. Others neatly pinned like birthday cards. The content repeated over and over. A child she never gave birth to, who never existed. Feelings of betrayal, isolation, and the world turning against her. The final entry was dated 2 weeks ago. Everyone finally believes. The sponsors, the media, the friends. Once the last installment from the Delacroix Fund comes in, we'll have enough to launch the mobile ultrasound van. After that, I'll lose you. And no one will question it. I'm sorry I have to do it this way, but you understand me, don't you? I dropped the notebook. My hands were ice cold. It wasn't just a delusion. It was a plan, a performance, and Tessa had written the script. A message from Tessa arrived near midnight. Alexa, I know you've read the notebook. Maybe I was wrong to believe you'd understand, but I don't have any other choice. If you truly want to know the whole truth, meet me at the old cabin by Maple Creek at noon tomorrow. Come alone. Don't bring Noah. The lake cabin. The place that had once been our little world every summer. Back in high school, we used to camp on the porch, make up ghost stories to scare each other, and cry because we were both afraid of the dark. It was the last place I thought I'd return to, but never imagined it would be for this. The next morning was overcast. The wind brushed across the lake in quiet ripples, mirroring the churn inside me. I pulled up to the cabin entrance. Tessa had arrived before me. Her white SUV was parked neatly beside the house. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside. Tessa sat on the old sofa by the window, cradling a cup of tea, her hair tied in a bun, her face bare. She wore the same beige sweater she had worn the winter we were 27, the year she said she was going to start over. Today, she wasn't hiding anything. You know, she said, without looking at me. I want to hear it from you, I replied, gently closing the door. It took a while before she spoke. Last year, November, I really was pregnant. 6 weeks. David and I hadn't told anyone yet. That night, I started bleeding. The hospital confirmed it was over. But the doctor said that was common for women over 30. Tessa let out a bitter laugh. They didn't know I had bought baby clothes before the test even turned positive. I sat across from her. I didn't tell anyone, except David and my mom. I thought I could get through it. But life kept going. Everyone moved on like nothing happened. And I couldn't stop hearing the heartbeat in my head. She set the tea down. Her hands trembled slightly. A month later, I was invited to speak at a mother's first fundraiser. I didn't want to go. I had a panic attack in the bathroom. David held me and said, "If you don't want to face the loss, just pretend it didn't happen." Just to get me through that day. And you did. I meant to fake it for just an hour. But when I stood on that stage, the lights on my face, the audience silent, hanging on every word about my journey to motherhood, I felt seen. I felt heard. No one pitied me. They applauded me. Like I'd made it through something heroic. She gave a hollow smile. After that, they started coming to me. Mothers who had lost children, women in fertility treatment. They said I gave them hope. And they wanted to help new roots grow. They sent money, supplies, connections, things I never could have gotten if I'd only been Tessa who had a miscarriage. There was this one woman, she went on, her eyes red, named Elaine Parker. She lost her daughter to birth complications at 21. She wanted to do something in her memory. I promised her that if I had a daughter, I'd name her Elaine Rose. Oh my God, I clenched my hands. And from then on, everyone believed I truly understood. The grief, the waiting. I became the ideal mother surviving loss in their eyes. They kept donating. I never asked. They offered. Every dollar went to New Roots, to the mobile ultrasound van, and to prenatal support kits. But the cost of sustaining it all was to stay pregnant. I couldn't even tell what I was feeling anymore. Anger, pity, or heartbreak. And David knew all of it. He didn't fully understand. To him, it was something I'd grow out of. He never stopped me, never challenged it. He's exhausted, always has been. Tessa looked up. Her eyes met mine. Alexa, I'm not a fraud. I've never taken anything for myself. I just don't know how to stop without destroying everything I've built. I took a deep breath. Have you thought about the people who put their hopes in you? Do you understand how much it will hurt them to learn the truth? She was quiet, then softly said, I know, but I'm afraid of losing it all. I'm afraid of becoming invisible again. Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves rustled like something was about to be swept away. I stood, my eyes locked on hers. Tessa, this has to end. Today. Ko gat rai on ma nu. Me okwe kameda. I sat on the porch bench, Tessa's notebook still heavy in my bag like a block of lead. One thought kept circling in my mind. If she could convince me, someone who'd known her for 20 years, how could anyone else ever stand a chance against her? I pulled out my phone and searched for the number of Mrs. Elaine Parker, the woman Tessa had mentioned at the cabin. She'd met me once at a charity event 3 months ago. I remembered how her voice shook when she spoke about her daughter, who died during childbirth at 21. My chest tightened as I pressed the call button. Hello, this is Alexa Carter. We met at the New Roots event. I have a sensitive question, but I need to verify something about Tessa Green. There was a pause on the line, then Mrs. Parker spoke gently. I remember you. You were the close friend who came with Tessa, weren't you? Yes. What's going on? I swallowed hard. Did Tessa ever say that if she had a daughter, she would name her Elaine Rose to honor your daughter? A long silence followed. She did, Mrs. Parker whispered. She said it was a spiritual gift, a living symbol. She even wrote me a handwritten letter confirming it. Why are you asking? I closed my eyes, my hand gripping the phone. Because there may never have been a baby at all. 2 days later, the story leaked. Not from me, not from Noah, and not from Mrs. Parker either. I assumed it came from a former New Roots employee, or perhaps a donor who grew suspicious after that overly lavish baby shower. The first post appeared on a local blog known for exposing fraudulent fundraisers. Then came a flood of posts on social media. Photos of Tessa with no visible baby bump, contradictory statements about her due date, conflicting donor lists. A headline from Portland Weekly spelled it out. Nonprofit director suspected of faking pregnancy to solicit emotional donations. The community erupted. People who had once hugged her after speeches now shared angry posts. One woman left a comment. I lost my son at 38 weeks. Tessa told me she understood. I donated $5,000 just to help other moms like me. Now I feel used. Sponsors pulled out. New Roots bank accounts were frozen for investigation. Volunteers were left confused. The office shut down within a week. And Tessa disappeared. Her phone was off. No one had seen her since that afternoon at the cabin. David, her husband, released a short statement saying he didn't know the full extent of the situation and that Tessa needs professional help. No apology. One morning, I found a handwritten letter slipped under my door. Alexa, you were always the better one, weren't you? Always composed, always logical, always knowing when to walk away. But you've never known what it feels like to have the whole world turn its back on you. I thought you'd understand. But you were the first to betray me. You've always been jealous. For a long time. Because I was the one people remembered, the one on stage, the one they called Mother. Well, now you've got what you wanted. I've lost everything, and you get to stand at the center of the storm as the hero. Congratulations, Alexa. I crushed the letter in my hand, then unfolded it again. Not long after, the old friends began to call. Jenna, the freelance interior designer, told me Tessa had borrowed $2,500 from her to reserve the nursery furniture. She had also drawn up free design mock-ups, thinking she was doing something meaningful for a soon-to-be mom. Kylie, our college classmate who became a therapist, shared that Tessa had suggested she join a postpartum mental health program through New Roots, but every time Kylie asked for official paperwork, Tessa dodged the question. Each story was different, but they shared one thing. They had all believed in Tessa. And now they didn't know what, if anything, had ever been real. I kept record of every story, not for revenge, but because I knew she wasn't done. Sooner or later, Tessa would return. And it wouldn't be to say sorry, but to reclaim control of the narrative. That night, it rained hard. Rain hammered the roof like it wanted to wash everything away. Noah had been called in for an emergency shift. I sat alone in the living room, the soft yellow glow of the lamp the only light. I was folding copies of New Roots investigation materials to submit to the legal group supporting affected donors, when there was a knock at the door. I looked through the small window by the entrance. Tessa. She was alone, soaked to the bone. No umbrella, no shield, no words. Her long hair clung to her face, her jean jacket soaked, her blue eyes vacant. I opened the door. She stayed quiet, avoiding my eyes as if she didn't deserve to meet them. She stumbled forward, nearly collapsing into me, her body eerily weightless. I guided her inside, wrapped her in a blanket, and helped her onto the couch. The smell of rain, mud, and exhaustion clung to her. I boiled water, made ginger tea. She left the tea untouched and stayed silent. We sat there, me in the chair opposite her, she curled beneath the blanket like a shadow. Finally, in a voice rough and broken, Tessa whispered, "Tell me what to do. I'll do it." I looked at her for a long time. There was no performance in her eyes anymore. "Turn yourself in." She closed her eyes, then gave a small nod. Early the next morning, when Noah returned, the police had already arrived. Tessa sat still, her hands resting on her lap, not resisting when they read her rights and brought out the handcuffs. Her expression in that moment, no resistance, no fear, almost looked like relief. "She came alone," I told the officer. "Her mental state is unstable." She cooperated and accepted responsibility. I didn't mention the notebook. Didn't mention the accusatory letter. I kept those things to myself as the last remaining part of our friendship. Not to protect Tessa, but to avoid betraying myself. The trial was held 3 months later. Tessa received probation, was ordered to repay all misused donations, and was required to attend an 18-month behavioral rehabilitation program. David, her husband, filed for divorce after the first hearing. I wasn't surprised. The name Tessa Green had once been the face of hope in prenatal care campaigns across Oregon. Now it appeared in the community fraud section of the local paper. Some people still defended her, saying she suffered from depression and post-loss trauma. Others were furious, demanding harsher criminal charges. I didn't join any of the debates. I simply shared what I knew in the hearing. Nothing more, nothing less. A week later, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. Rachel Corbin, a documentary producer who once won at Sundance. "I want to make a film about Tessa's story. Not to whitewash it, but to explore the social and psychological perspective of how far a woman can go for recognition. I'd like to interview both of you. You and Tessa. The contrast between the witness and the deceiver could be a deeply human narrative." I waited, not out of hesitation, but out of disbelief. But a few days later, Noah told me that Tessa had also received the same invitation, and almost said yes. She said this might be her chance to tell the story the right way, Noah said. But her therapist advised her to avoid media contact during treatment. Even now, after everything, Tessa was still trying to hold on to the stage, even if only through the memory of the audience. One early autumn afternoon, I received a handwritten letter from Cypress Meadows, the Behavioral Rehabilitation Center in Northern Oregon, where Tessa was now enrolled as part of the court's sentence. I held the envelope in my hand for a long time. Finally, I pulled out the paper. The handwriting was still familiar, slightly slanted to the right, careful, like how she used to write apology letters to teachers in high school. Alexa, this is the first time I've been asked to write a letter without trying to make the reader like me, without trying to explain myself, without trying to become a victim or an inspiration. I was wrong. I went too far. And I couldn't tell anymore which parts were the story I told and which were the truth. Some days, I still dream of that baby. A girl, brown eyes, curly hair. I believe she was real. Not because she ever existed, but because I needed her to. The way people looked at me with softness, the way they called me a strong mother, the cards that said, "We believe in you." All of it made me think that if I stayed in the role long enough, it would become real. But then I lost everything. I'm sorry. Not because you need to hear it, but because I need to say it. Thank you for not staying silent. I folded the letter and opened the old wooden box hidden on the bookshelf. The place where I kept mementos I once couldn't throw away. The silver blue friendship bracelet from 8th grade. The fake scarf I used as an excuse to return to her house that day. The baby shower photo printed on glossy paper, and the letter full of blame Tessa once wrote to me, full of hurt, full of denial. I placed the new letter on top, as if to close a chapter. A week later, I returned to the house where the baby shower had taken place, now with a "for sale" sign hanging in front. I stood next to the rotting wooden fence, looking into the backyard that had once been filled with balloons, scented candles, jazz music, and congratulations that would never come true. I sat down on the wooden steps, where a woman in a white dress had once stood smiling in the crowd, her hand resting on a perfectly round belly posed just right in every angle. Some lies, I thought, begin from fear, the fear of losing something too beautiful. Some lies come from love, from wanting someone to have hope. But some lies exist solely to keep others' eyes on you for just a little longer. Tessa had been all of those things, and I had taken far too long to see the difference. I don't know if she'll truly change after treatment. I don't know if she'll choose a quiet life or someday return to retell her story, in whatever version benefits her most. I once called Tessa family. I defended her when no one else did. I ignored the subtle signs simply because I didn't want to lose a friendship I thought would last forever. But not all long-standing relationships are worth holding on to. Some only exist to teach us how to let go. If you've ever closed your eyes to your own unease because you didn't want to lose a longtime friend, if you've ever tortured yourself or stayed silent to hold on to something that had already rotted, then maybe you understand me. And if you're now where I once stood, in the middle of confusion, please remember, there's nothing wrong with walking out of someone else's script, even if you once played the lead role. Live your own story. What do you think about Alexa's decision and what Tessa did? Was it weakness or an unhealed wound? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more emotional and unexpected family stories.